explanations, the military declined to comment, and the city government ignored requests for an investigation. These skywatchers decided to take matters into their own hands. Ted Lohman was one of the most prominent UFO investigators to enter the fray. Lohman is a metallurgist who in the late 1980s was nearly blinded in an industrial accident. During his recovery, his father shared with him a lifelong interest in UFOs. Lohman immersed himself in what believers call ufology. Later, he created a television program as a public forum for the UFO issue.
I got involved in television through public access in 1991 and set out to show the world, if you would, that the UFO phenomena does exist with credible people speaking on the subject.
Ted Lohman was frustrated by the government's refusal to seek an explanation for the Pheonix lights. National Guard and Air Force officials gave conflicting and what UFO investigators believe were misleading accounts of the sighting.
The flow of information was erratic at first. When we tried to go through normal channels, from what the investigators have told me, that they originally called Luke Air Force Base. The woman at the end of the phone said, yes, we're having a rash of calls. Within a matter of minutes, they turned around and said, no, nothing is happening. Then they come out with something else months later saying, oh, there were flares in the area.
The Arizona National Guard originally claimed it had no planes in the sky on March 13th. In May, after USA Today published an article about the incident, it changed its story, saying the visiting Maryland National Guard had dropped flares over the Gila River gunnery range in training exercises. Lohman decided to have the Pheonix lights home video footage analyzed to see if this new explanation could be confirmed.
When I receive something like the Pheonix lights, you have to take it to people that deal with this. So I either get in touch with Jim Dilatoso or somebody that is in the field that I feel confident that will look at this with an open mind and tell me what they believe that it is.
Jim Dilatoso is a UFO enthusiast and president of a company which produces computer graphics for entertainment and aerospace clients. He frequently collaborates with UFO investigators, analyzing film and videotape of alleged sightings.
We've been investigating UFO pictures for over 20 years for other investigators. We're like a police lab. We don't publish reports. We give information back to other investigators. We do it for people in Russia and Brazil and Florida and Canada and all over. So when the Pheonix lights happened in March 1997, we opened it to the lab to investigate and measure it. Not trying to prove or disprove that it's an extraterrestrial spacecraft. I'm measuring for data.
Dilatoso supports Lohman's belief that the Pheonix sighting can't be dismissed by the explanation of flares.
So we can compare to airplane lights, car lights, hail bop, flares, and see if we get a match. We didn't get a match. Geophysically, when we triangulate or quintangulate the 5 different videos that have been shot, we position it in a location that isn't even remotely close to where the National Guard allegedly set off flares. And that only lasted 10 minutes, the setting off of flares. This event happened for hours on the night of March 13th.
Many witnesses dispute the location where the military claims the flares were dropped. They also insist the lights did not descend or illuminate the surrounding mountains the way flares would have.
And I'd just like to say that the V of lights that I saw that night was absolutely not flares. I've dropped these flares from my helicopter in Vietnam. I've been on the ground in Vietnam when the flares have been deployed above me. I've seen the flares from fighters being dropped by other fighters. Flares have a real distinctive flickering. They're suspended by parachutes so they wouldn't stay in a perfect V orientation as they traversed all the way across the sky.
Were there flares? Possibly. The Army or the Air Force says there were. I believe that something else was going on. What was going on was a show. It was for the people in the Pheonix area. It lasted too long to be a set of 5 flares, and that was it.
What really happened on March 13, 1997? Did thousands of Phoenix residents see an extraterrestrial craft pass over them between the hours of 8:30 and 10 p.m.? Skeptics question the investigative techniques of the so-called ufologists.
The burden of proof on a UFO event is on the person telling the story, not on the person debunking it. You must, if in science and really in life, your proof must be so that there's no other explanation that is more logical, more easily accepted, more likely to have happened.
Months later, the Arizona National Guard finally gave an official explanation for the lights over Phoenix. They claimed the sightings were caused by a visiting air unit on maneuvers over southern Arizona.
The 8:30 tape was a formation of aircraft flying through the area. Later that night, around 10 o'clock, these were flares that were dropped by a Maryland Air National Guard unit flying A-10s on the range southeast of Phoenix. All that anyone saw was a bunch of lights, and some people connected the dots and made this one object.
Even some in the UFO community say flares might have been responsible for the sightings that occurred at 10 o'clock, but say conventional aircraft could not cause the flying V formation seen by witnesses between 8 and 10.
The pattern looks military, but the witnesses certainly have a different impression of what that was at 8:30 that evening. If you look at the flight path, and this is very important, you're looking at coming from Henderson, Nevada, and if you go and continue a line northwest of Henderson, you're going to go into Nellis Air Force Range, and you're going to go into Area 51.
Area 51 is the Shangri-La of the UFO community, a military base in the Nevada desert undeclared on any government map. The UFO community believes that the government hides many of its UFO secrets at the infamous base.
The first reports came from the northwest and directly in line with that corridor. Now, a lot of speculation was brought about by being something coming from Nellis Air Force or Area 51, a super secret, some type of a spy plane that came in this direction.
These skywatchers aren't certain they know what made the March 13th lights. Theories of spy planes proliferate alongside claims of alien craft. But they are united in demanding that the government release whatever facts it has to the public.
I think I can speak for the majority of the people within the field of ufology that we want to get the truth out. We might not want to know what the truth is once we get it, but we want to know the truth.
Many people, including at least one city councilwoman, has asked for an investigation on what happened. When I work and I pay taxes, I pay for that jet fuel and those jets they train in. And when I have a serious question and evidence of what I captured on tape, I demand some answers.
I think there's an unwritten law that you don't ask about these things if you're in government. And, you know, they have made fun of so many people that have said, well, they saw something. I've never seen anything in my life, but obviously something was out there that night. Hundreds of people have told me what they saw. They all described the same thing. There was something there.
Despite the clamoring from the UFO community, the military has insisted it has nothing further to say about the Phoenix lights of March 1997.